Don't trust the CAPTCHA. A new phishing campaign is using them to steal your credentials.
So Andy, I understand you've got this report on another phishing campaign that's got some difference, some unique features this time.
Yeah, yet another phishing campaign. It's nothing new, but there is a little twist in this case. So it's a phishing campaign for Microsoft Office 365. So intended victims are supposed to see fake login screen that are supposed to get their Microsoft Office 365 credentials. The twist in this, however, is that the authors of this phishing campaign actually they put a CAPTCHA right in front of it, and so what's interesting is when you go to it, you actually have to solve a couple CAPTCHAs before you can actually see the fake login page. So there's just that added wall. And it does two things. The folks over at Menlo Labs actually discovered this phishing campaign. But the CAPTCHA basically does two things. First one is it adds to the perceived legitimacy of the site, if you will. So, a lot of people, they think that, CAPTCHAs make a site more legitimate, makes it more secure. The site's going to be benign because it's got a CAPTCHA on it. And that's just not true. But the attackers here are playing on that perception. And so they're adding that CAPTCHA to their site. And in doing so, a lot of people will associate that with something that's more legitimate. But that's not all. The second thing is it actually impairs security researchers' ability to discover these fake login pages in an automated fashion. So, the internet's huge and nobody could just sit there and look at all these different websites by hand. Security researchers employ scripts, and automation to discover these things, and then, automate the analysis and report the findings. So the trouble is those scripts are going to hit those CAPTCHAs and they're not going to be able to solve them probably. And so that automated analysis is just not going to happen. So it's sort of thwarting security researchers a little bit. So, hats off to the folks over at Menlo Labs, because they were able to get around that and they still managed to discover this phishing campaign and do an analysis on it. There's a blog post on their site about it. Malware authors, attackers, campaign designers, all that stuff. They do a number of different things to sort of thwart security researchers. This is, this one, I don't know if I've heard a case of CAPTCHAs being used for this particular purpose. There has been cases in the past where a CAPTCHA was used to, execute some malware. So the user goes to the site and you have to solve a CAPTCHA. And then once you do that, then the malware gets dropped and gets on your system. So this one's a little different in that you have to solve those CAPTCHAs just to get the fake login page. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I think that the bad guys or the phishers are going to use every single tactic to get you to just interact with the website. And I think, sometimes they just put like familiar elements on the page and you just like want to log in. I'll be honest, like there's a website I use that has a specific login page. And anytime I see that, I just automatically just want to enter my credentials into it. So I would probably, in essence, right? I that's just me, like in my work day or whatever, like I'm going through and I'm like, every time I see that, my instinct is like, oh, what's my password? How do I type it in? And I think the phishers over the years have become really good into tuning into, our like behaviors and how we like see a page and just want to like shortcut the process. And yeah, this is just like another example of something that they're trying. And just as good as they are at coming up with new things, they're also quite as good as actually metrics, I believe. So phishers, they know how well their campaigns are working and they adjust readily. So they'll use this tactic as long as it works for them. And then if it's no longer working, they'll actually adjust quickly and just come up with a brand new technique. And, this also allows them to have people solve CAPTCHAs for possibly other things that they're tricking people to solve CAPTCHAs for. So sometimes, they might be doing like brute forcing or something like that, and they might be getting presented with CAPTCHAs, and they might be rolling them through these kinds of websites. It's very Yeah, it's a very interesting story. I know our work is cut out for us as defenders of networks when there's such clever tactics out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that constant arms race, and the attackers are, not just relying on, the technical stuff, but they're starting to attack, the human behavior side. Just a CAPTCHA comes up. Well, okay, we see those so often that, that must be legitimate. Find the, the crosswalks or the stoplights or the bicycles or whatever. And, so, it's a never-ending, race with the attackers to try to stay ahead of them.
I would say just the only thing I could always recommend for our viewers or anyone in general really is, personal responsibility when it comes to your home passwords is you just got to do your due diligence. When you have that feeling like I just got to log in, this screen looks familiar and I have to log in. Do you really? How did you get here? What led you to this site? Is it the URL you were expecting? Before you start typing. One other feature just got me thinking. You also have to be very careful with the auto fill out feature. Recently, I was doing some research, and so when you're logging into various websites, you should be very careful if you allow it to do the little drop down and autofill things for you, because sometimes there could be hidden elements in the page that'll also get filled out and sent to the adversary. So you just have to be, very, very careful. There might be more information being collected on the website than you can see on the page. So just always be vigilant and just verify again and again the URL at the top. Make sure you know what website you're on. If it looks unfamiliar from what you've done before, just double check one more time. It's much better to double check 10 times than have that nagging feeling of, where did my password just go?
Yeah, well, that's, double checking the URL there at the top. It seems like such a simple thing, but how often do you just type it in without glancing up there and looking at it? And unfortunately, some of the browsers are trying to make your life simpler by hiding some of that stuff now that, I wish they wouldn't. I really want to see it. Then, of course, we still have the issue of the lookalike domains using the other character sets. But we're not going to solve all the web problems in the 5-minute segment on ThreatTraq.
No, we are not. I don't know if the article goes into it, but usually phishing pages that are looking for your credentials, they usually come from emails. So you guys had great recommendations. Make sure it's the correct domain. Make sure everything looks right. But when you look at an email, make sure the sender is legitimate. Check who sent it to you and see. Look for little things like spelling. Look for little things like just phraseology might be a little bit different. So you have a keen eye with those sorts of things. I remember years ago, I was told a lot, before I even got into the world of security, make sure that the site you go to has the little lock right on the left of the URL. I remember that was the thing, if it has that lock, you're good to go. That's just not the case anymore at all. And so maybe CAPTCHAs are kind of going that way where, usually you did see CAPTCHAs and it usually meant that the site was secured. And now clearly that's not the case. So that's just another thing that you've got to kind of retrain your brain a little bit to see and not immediately associate with something that's more secure or benign.